Hello, Cindy here with Create Your Own Luck and Love, and I'm excited to talk to you ladies and gentlemen, if you're here, today about the 3 mistakes, and there's more, but and this that women make that inadvertently do turn men off. So in other words, repel them, can come up like desperate energy, and I feel called to share this today because there's so much conflicting energy signals, things that come about out there. So here's things that I know for certain do absolutely make a man almost recoil away from you. And it screams of what I call desperate energy. And I use that carefully because I work with and I speak with so many women that absolutely do not want to be desperate at all. And in fact, so much so that they might go the opposite direction. And I'll speak into that more when I have more time on a different topic, because that's super important too. But you might see yourself in one of these that I'm about to speak about today. So the first one is, so if you're out there dating or you're in a new relationship, or you find yourself oftentimes in dating scenarios where it goes really well at first and then he pulls away and then you find yourself going into pursuer mode, or it falls apart. One of these things might be going on. So check this out. So the first one is, well, I don't know which one to go into first, but I'm going to talk about this one. The first one is apologizing all the time. So almost over apologizing, or if something happens, good, bad, indifferent, or you take responsibility, you apologize about it, or you apologize when an apology isn't even warranted. So what that does is it's what I call, it's like a doormat is what it starts to show up as. So you start apologizing, and the apologizing goes into this, wanting to be liked conversation and, way of being that it actually doesn't create tension between a man and woman. It neutralizes it, which repels. Neutralization repels. Just remember that piece. So, do you know anybody, or have you been guilty of apologizing all the time or wanting to make things better? And as women, we naturally want to do that with each other. We're always like, we want to make things better. We're nurturers by nature, but there's a overdoingness that can happen in apologizing. So if you find yourself saying, I'm sorry all the time, or apologizing, chances are you're in massive people pleaser energy, and that leads to other things. That leads to not being fully authentic in who you are, your way of being. If you're a people pleaser that's always trying to do the right thing, i.e. morph yourself into what you think people want, and that could be anyone, then chances are you're not being fully authentic to yourself or to your feelings. So there's that piece. The next one is, and this is a big one, I have a lot of beef when it comes to texting. And I say this to my clients all the time. And many of them will literally say, I know, you tell me this all the time, but it's true. texting is the best way to communicate, miscommunicate, start wars. Texting is, I don't want to say it's bad because it is a way of communicating. But here's the thing. This will repel a man. If you are the one, like you're in the blue, he's in the gray or the white, and most of the blue, the conversation is most of blue. You are the blue. Oh, thank you. So if you guys like my hat, it's kind of a different look, but I love this hat. Anyway, go back, Cindy. So the blue is, is you. The gray represents them. So the thing is what we can do when it comes to text messaging is we can over communicate in text, and we can repeat communicate in text. I call it the double, triple text, meaning that if maybe you make a request in a text or you ask a question and he doesn't answer the question, and then or they don't answer at all, and it sucks to feel ignored, don't get me wrong. And then you ask the question again, and then you say something else, and then maybe you ask the question again. That is literally pushing a man away, and it's desperate energy, really, and it actually repulses them, and we don't even know it, because the thing about text messaging is women, and I've seen this as almost an epidemic when it comes to women and text messaging too, because a lot of times when a woman is first getting to know a guy, the guy will text them all the time. You'll be in a continuous conversation throughout the day. It feels so good and connective. And then you guys get into a relationship, or there's a certain point in time, and then he's not texting as much. And as women, we can text all day. Our brains are made up differently. We could send a quick text and it's not that big of a deal to us. Now men can too. They're single focused though, meaning that once he's gotten to a certain point with you, so once you guys have gotten into a relationship and he's like, okay, I can relax a little, because a man cannot sustain the all the time text messaging throughout the day. And I blame our society for being, instant gratification oriented, like, Grubhub, Amazon, you name it. Like, we can get things quickly in this day and age. And I find myself, somebody called me out yesterday on getting impatient. And, we will get impatient about things that don't go our way at the time that we expect it to. So what do you do in that circumstance? You take some deep breaths, and you don't do the double or triple text. Do not, resist every urge. And, the problem with a lot of these things, it's an issue of control. And I'm going to be diving a little bit deeper into, ways as, women and men do this too. So don't get me wrong. We're not the only culprits. I happen to mostly coach women. So I'm speaking to you guys, and I want to support you in really feeling closer, getting closer with a man, so that it doesn't really matter when the heck you text him and you're not trying to build up this tension. But my point is that if you're in a point where you're uncertain, you don't know what's happening in the relationship, you're brand new, then less is more. Less is always more. So that is the second one. I could go days and days around text messaging. But the next one I have and this is a good one. I've seen this I've seen a lot of people do this. I can tell you I've been guilty of this myself, and it does not work, you guys. It just doesn't work. So it's being active on social media to one, prove to him that you've got a life or that you're doing great things without him in order to get his attention so he'll reach out to you or make him jealous somehow. It doesn't work. And typically, if you're in that energy, or maybe you start posting a lot when you hardly ever post, or it's just out of character, men will inadvertently pick up on that. They just will. So the thing to do is just resist every urge to do that. Actually, do you live your life, go do something that you've always wanted to do, or go do the things that really make you happy. Chances are maybe there's something in your life that you've wanted to try again for a really long time. I would encourage you to stretch yourself and do that. I used to do kickboxing and I loved it. And I have a good friend of mine that always kickboxes, and I'm like, oh man, what she does is so good. It looks so great. And I'm in my own rut with, my own working out or whatnot, or sometimes lack thereof. So it's like, stretch yourself to go do that thing and really revitalize yourself in your energy. So a lot of times we can too, we can do certain things that try to elicit a response, which then becomes a little passive aggressive, with the intention of trying not to be needy, right? And so there's another thing that we can do. And this is a tricky one because, I think all love and relationship coaches talk about, talking about your needs, making sure that you communicate. And I am a firm believer of really good communication and making sure that you're communicating in your relationship. Super important. However, we can do this thing called overcommunicate, or communicate every time we're feeling an emotion. And what happens is, I'm going to tell you a little bit of the psychology behind that too. I think this might help you guys, is that when we have a feeling or emotion that can feel negative or feel uncomfortable, we tend to have separating thoughts from that person. We tend to be like, really? Is this going to work out? What in the, why, I'm feeling this way? Why doesn't he see that? Whatever the thought is, right? But we tend to have these separating thoughts. The problem is that when you're having these separating thoughts and you're in this kind of emotive state, I call it maybe volcanic state. Sometimes I call it detonator energy, where you're just honed in on these things. And what happens is we are reacting out of our emotions in the moment, and we can actually be reacting out of something that has nothing to do with them. You could be tired, you could be hungry, you could be, had something happen earlier in the day, right? Excuse me. So you want to make sure that when you're communicating from a place of empowerment and a place of clarity. So I feel that communication is so good. So, and don't like to do a lot of communication over text when it comes to needs. And the best thing is if you do something when it comes to communication, when it comes to needs with a man especially, and this is in general, is, gosh, I would be so happy if, I heard your voice today. It made me so, so happy. I really love it, or when he texts and you've been in this state, be like, it's so good to hear from you. It makes me so happy when I get to see a text from you. Puts a smile on my face. And that is positive feedback, which for men, it sends neurotransmitters to their brain of, oh, that makes her really happy. I'm going to continue doing that. And men, especially if they're in the right space in their life and they want to make you happy, they're going to keep doing the things that make you happy. They just are. So we can tend to go into the space of over communicating with the thought process of, oh, I want to make sure that I'm communicating. You don't want to over communicate. The thing is men don't want to hear the whole thing, just the facts, and break it down, one thing at a time, just the Cliff Note facts. Because if you are telling him a whole story about a whole lot of things, chances are he isn't going to hear it, because men can handle, I don't want to say this in a negative way, but they tend to be able to handle things in bite-sized pieces. That's why if you're frustrated about something, you don't want to air out 10 grievances. You want to stick with one thing and the biggest thing that's happening, and go into it with what I call appreciation sandwich style. So let me know if this helps you. Let me know, like, yes, this is helpful. And if there's something else that you would like to hear more of, because I can tell you what, a lot of times inadvertently, we're doing at least one of these things and we don't even realize the energy that it brings about. So here's to you having a freaking amazing rest of your day. And thank you again. If you know anyone first that needs to hear this message, please, please, please share the love to them. That'd be awesome. And you can also catch really great content of mine on Instagram, Cindy Olin, Cindy/Olin, my first and last name. Or on YouTube, if you're on YouTube and you like what you are hearing and seeing, just give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. That way you can get all the videos that I send out weekly. So I'm glad this helps you guys. I'm sending you so, so, so much love. Have an amazing day, and I will see you soon. Bye, everyone.